In the shadow of the old ironworks on the edge of Milford, where the river ran black with forgotten soot and the sky always smelled faintly of rust, lived 14-year-old Elias Crow. People called him Eli, or sometimes just the boy who listens to machines, because when other kids were kicking footballs or sneaking cigarettes behind the sheds, Eli was crouched in the scrapyard with a screwdriver and a flashlight, coaxing life back into things that should have stayed dead. Eli's father had been a foreman at the works until the big shutdown 5 years earlier. One morning, the gates were chained, the whistles silent, and Dad came home with empty hands and a quiet that never left. He spent his days in the armchair staring at the wall, while Eli spent his in the yard behind their terraced house, turning heaps of twisted metal into something that moved. The extraordinary machines started small. A clockwork bird he found half buried under slaggy, rewound its spring with a bent nail, oiled the gears with bicycle grease, and one evening it fluttered across the kitchen table on wings of hammered tin, singing a thin, metallic tune that made his mother smile for the first time in months. Then came the walking lantern, an oil lamp fused to 3 piston legs from an old steam hammer. It clanked around the yard at dusk like a curious dog, lighting the path so Eli could work after dark. Word spread slowly. First the neighbors, then the kids from school who dared each other to peek over the fence. "He fixes impossible things," they whispered, "machines no one else can understand." One rainy October afternoon, a stranger arrived, tall, coat damp and patched, carrying a canvas-wrapped bundle the size of a small coffin. He knocked on the back gate and asked for the boy who repairs what is broken beyond repair. Eli wiped motor oil from his hands and stared up at the man. "Depends what's broken." The stranger unwrapped the bundle. Inside was a thing of brass and crystal, gears nested like secrets, a single large lens at the center like an unblinking eye, a chronoscope. The man called a tan instrument from before the war, meant to glimpse moments yet to come. It had stopped working decades ago. No one knew why. Museums had turned it down. Collectors had given up. The man had heard rumors of a boy in Milford who didn't believe in impossible. Eli carried it to his workbench under the lean-to roof. Rain drummed on corrugated iron while he worked. Days blurred into nights. He took it apart piece by piece, laying cogs and springs across an old door balanced on crates. Some parts were so delicate he used tweezers stolen from his mother's sewing kit. Others were fused solid. He heated them gently with a blowtorch he'd rebuilt from scrap, whispering apologies to the metal as if it could feel pain. His father watched from the kitchen window sometimes, silent. Once he shuffled out with a mug of tea Eli hadn't asked for. "You'll ruin your eyes in this light," he muttered, then went back inside. On the 7th night the chronoscope hummed. A low, vibrating note, like a tuning fork, struck underwater. Eli fitted the last spring, aligned the final lens, and turned the small brass key. The lens flared soft blue. Images flickered across it, not clear like a film, but fractured, like reflections in cracked glass. Eli saw himself older, standing in a rebuilt ironworks, machines humming again, men and women at work. He saw his father laughing, sleeves rolled, pointing at a new press. He saw his mother's garden, full of color instead of weeds. Then the vision shifted. A different path, darker. The yard empty, the house cold, Eli alone with rusting hulks and no one to show them to. The machine stuttered. The light dimmed. Eli's hands shook as he tightened one last screw. The hum steadied. The blue glow held. He stepped back. The stranger had returned, waiting in the rain. "Does it work?" the man asked. Eli nodded. "It shows possibilities, not certainties. You have to choose which one to chase." The stranger smiled thinly. "Then you fixed more than the machine, boy." He left the chronoscope behind, a gift for the one who mended it, and walked into the mist. Eli carried the device inside. His father was at the table, staring at nothing. Eli set the chronoscope down and turned the key again. This time he angled it so his father could see. The blue light washed over the old man's face. He blinked. Slowly, he reached out and touched the brass casing. "Still got a bit of life in the old works, eh?" he said, voice rough. Eli swallowed. "Yeah, still got a bit." The next morning, Eli woke to the sound of tools. His father was in the yard, sorting scrap, humming under his breath. Not much, just enough to start. Eli joined him. Together they pulled out pieces for something new. Not a chronoscope. Something simpler. Something for right now. Because some machines, Eli was beginning to understand, weren't fixed with gears and oil alone. Some needed 2 pairs of hands, a quiet word, and the stubborn belief that broken things could still run again if You only listened closely enough. And in Milford, under a sky that finally let a little light through, the boy who fixed extraordinary machines kept working, one careful turn at a time.